have Dr. Boyd lead us in the word of prayer for the flag.
Let us pray. Almighty God, thank you for the opportunity to gather again. Bless us as a group. Help us to work together to do what's best for the people in our state. Guide us and lead us. We may all agree, but we can agree and meet the decision and do what's best for those. Remembering that the road is rough, but he never said it would be easy. And one of my favorite poets, Robert Frost, in Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Eve. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but we all have promises to keep and miles to go before we sleep, and miles to go before we sleep. Help us to go these miles, doing the best we can. These and all other blessings were in thy most holy and righteous name. Amen.
Thank you, Dr. Boyd. Clerk call roll, please.
Representative Ingram,
Here.
Representative Wood,
Here.
Dr. Boyd,
Here.
Representative Hurst, Representative Standridge,
Here.
Representative Clark, Representative Crawford,
Here.
Representative Jones, Representative Fiddler,
Here.
Representative Hammett,
Here.
Representative Harrison,
Here.
Representative Hope Jones, Representative Stubbs,
Here.
Representative Datcher.
Here.
You have a quorum, sir.
All right, thank you. First bill up is HB 191. Chairman Baker, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Have before you then a bill that just stick the sheet to you, which sort of gives a quick sort of overview. This is streamlining the sales and use tax and pension process. I will say that over the last several years, again, particularly serving on the Education Ways and Means Committee, we do have these sales and use tax exemption bills that do come before our committee. And a lot of times these are, it's not just trying to have a sales tax exemption at the state level, but as much so then also at the local level, which to me, I've always felt like that we were getting a little bit out of our lane. We were sort of superimposing somewhat. That is from the state perspective, the sales tax. I understand that we do from the state level, the sales tax, but the locals, I felt that's something that the local governments should have that prerogative to make that decision on those types of things. So it's where increasingly in our committee, it's where we would tag on language that is to allow these local governments, county municipal governments, to opt in. But I do want to give some credit where credit's due. Sonny Browsfield with the Alabama Association of County Commissions, Lauren, they have been working on this, and then collaboration as well with the League of Municipalities regarding this, and also in collaboration with the Department of Revenue. So this is intended to try to streamline the process going forward on this. So it somewhat sets it in motion, sort of a reset that begins then with this next, or during the fall of this next year on that. With that, I'll be glad to sort of dig into any of the details in regards to the bill on any questions that you might have.
Any questions for the sponsor?
What would be the process of getting the county and the city to opt in to the responsibility?
That goes before, that would be before that local government, so the county and or municipality. So it'd either be by resolution or ordinance that they would need to adopt that a resolution or ordinance in regards to a specific opting in.
So that would occur after the state bill is passed?
Well, yes. To answer your question, yes. So if there was a state bill, well, actually what this does, this now eliminates, so that now with the state bill, it doesn't then lead across and go across all the state and then the county and municipal. Yeah.
So all state bills would have language that would exempt counties and cities unless they opt in.
Let me state it like this. Going forward, this would put it in motion then that state sales tax or bills then exempting would be only for the state sales taxes. That's the best way I could put it simplistic. Going forward, any tax exemption bills would only be for the state sales tax exemptions, but allowing for the municipalities or counties to be able to opt in of their own accord, without us having to tag on that language every time to each bill.
And if you need more clarity, we could get Sunny or
Yeah.
Lee to get up. We'll hold off on Margie. No offense.
Well, any of you, either one
Are
of
you
you.
good, Representative?
I mean, I'll allow, Mr. Brasfield then to, if you wanna try to elaborate any further on it, I mean.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman,
Sonny, recognize you.
thanks very much, Mr. Chairman. There have been a number of sales tax exemptions at the state level that have passed with opt-in language in them already. The sales tax holiday for schools, for example, sales tax holiday for disaster expenses. And there have been others that have passed with opt-in language. One of the things that happens is there's no one keeping a central list of who's opted in to each of these sales tax exemptions. This bill sets in motion, the Department of Revenue will keep that. It'll make it easier for retailers to know what's been exempted in their jurisdictions. And then it sets up one day for all of the opt-ins to take effect. So all the opt-ins will take effect on October 1 of each year. So if the county or city has until July to opt in, and then it takes effect on October 1. Again, having the opt-in for the exemptions to take effect on one day, making that easier for the business community and retailers not to be hit with resolutions from different cities or counties with different effective dates. So we hope the whole thing makes the process work more smoothly.
Thank you. Representative Clark.
So thank you for that explanation, Mr. Bransfield. So those were more, the examples you gave were statewide efforts. I don't think I've been asked, but I know that we get called upon by organizations, nonprofits, churches, even in our areas. Is this gonna apply to each one of those when they come to us to ask for legislation that would make them tax exempt?
This would apply to any exemptions that require an act of the legislature, yes, ma'am. So if it requires an act of the legislature, you would exempt the state tax, and then that entity would go to the county commission for the county tax, and they would go to the city council for the city tax. And there are a number of exemptions like this
There are
already,
that come
but then there are some where the state exempted both the county and the municipal tax without the consent of the local body.
Thank you.
So we have a sales tax holiday when the kids go back to school. To do that in the future, we would only be exempting our 4%, but the city and county would have to either opt in on their own or just not do it. So when we advertise the sales tax holiday, it's just 4% on the dollar for.
That's already the law, Representative. That's already the law today. Counties and cities have to opt in on the sales tax holiday for schools, as well as the sales tax holiday for disaster supplies, which I think is maybe coming up in February. I might be wrong about that, the date. But those laws already require an opt-in. This doesn't change those at all.
That's some of the language that I mentioned that we've been already incorporating as it came through committees and all. So now we're trying to clean it up and sort of have it sort of applies to all.
Representative.
So if I understand this correctly, as a former chairman of the county commission, we several times a year would have to pass a resolution to opt into sales tax holidays for different things. If I understand this correctly, we would opt in and we would do all of those at one time for the next fiscal year beginning October 1?
You would opt in one time.
Right.
It would become effective the next October 1, and then it would stay effective
So you
until
would
the
not
county or
have
city
to,
opted out.
you
don't
would not have
to
to
do it
continue to do that every year.
No, the opt-in just
to opt
becomes
out.
effective October 1.
It'd be in perpetuity, and the bill states that's in perpetuity unless it specifies that is, it's be like for a 3-year, 5-year period, sunset or whatever, so.
The September, you said October 1? I thought it was on page 2, it said the effective date of September 1. I was wondering why it was September 1. Usually, I would have thought it would have been October 1.
September 1 for full year collections at 60 days. July 1st is the deadline for municipalities and commissions to have their resolutions and ordinances submitted to the Department of Revenue.
Okay.
60-day window for them to turn that around, so it becomes effective, September 1.
September one.
No, that's it. Yeah, my bad.
Mike? Yes, sir.
This is the, I'm quick.
Go ahead,
You ready now?
This is something the impact on the SSCT.
No, sir.
So I see an example, I thought I remembered one, cause you know I read every bill
I
that's,
know you do.
anyway.
I called you the
so,
other night and you were reading.
so I just remembered that, Representative Enzo out of Montgomery has HB 83, it says current status, pending committee action and House of Order, I didn't need to read that, taxation, Alabama State Missionary Baptist Convention, exempt from payment of state, county, and municipal sales and use taxes. So is this an example?
Yes, ma'am.
Would it be?
I haven't read that bill, so I'm not, well, I probably.
HB 83, Lauren, so he can read it.
Yes.
That's true. But that is an example of what we're talking about.
Exactly.
It's a state passed exemption
Yes,
that would, under this process, apply to the state sales tax. And then whether it applied to county sales tax would be determined by the commission. And if it applied to city sales tax, it would be determined by the city.
so while this says exempt from the payment of state, county, and municipal sales and use taxes, if this bill passes first, then this is gonna have to be amended so that it's in the.
And in the ETF, for the last couple of sessions, we've been amending all of those bills to remove the county and city and only exempting the state in an effort for us to stay in our lane and only exempt taxes that we are
For
responsible
sake of
for.
consistency.
So
Okay.
almost all of those bills have come through ETF over the last two sessions, and we have amended all of them. And I think Representative Wilcox would probably attest to that.
What's the least you open the door for me?
All right. No further discussion? Do I hear a motion?
I move to give House Bill what, 191, okay?
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed likewise, bill's given a favorable
Thank you
report.
so much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chairman, members of the committee, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you, sir. All right, next bill up is, none other than Chairman Wilcox, HB 196.
Okay, I'm trying to stay in my lane.
Fine. Do I hear a motion? No.
Yes, it would be in my hearing aid bill.
Can you speak up?
Yeah. Today I'm here, it's my pleasure to present HB 196, which was brought from Mobile County. It was originally passed many years ago as a local application. We can no longer do that, so that is what brings this bill before your committee.
I understand there is a amendment, but we'll
I have
talk
two
about.
amendments.
2 amendments. We'll talk about the bill and then and if you will talk about your amendment. Any discussion on the bill? All right, let's move on to the amendment. Amendment 1.
Amendment 1 is going to be, I had it in my hand a minute ago, it's the time limit on there. The County Commission Association wanted to make sure that it was narrow and applied only to Mobile, so there's no
90
time
days.
limit on it.
I have that amendment, Mr. Chairman. It says replace line 27 on page 1 with the following resolution. Adopted no later than 90 days after the effective date of this act, may assume the supervision and administration of.
Any discussion on this amendment? Do I hear a motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Amendment 2.
Also, I'm going to this man.
My second amendment, just, one of our county commissioners, many of you know Commissioner Lovegood, felt like instead of calling the person over the detention facility a warden, in reference to rehabilitating juveniles, should rather that be named superintendent, and that's amendment.
Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Amendment's given a favorable report. Now the bill as amended, do I hear a motion?
So moved, that we do the bill with favorable report as amended.
All approved?
Am I supposed to second it?
Yes, we don't have to have.
We don't have to.
But that's okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. Bill's given a favorable report. Thank you, Chairman. On this next bill, I'm gonna hand it off to my vice chair here, David Wood, and we'll talk about
Mr. Chairman, you're bringing House Bill 134.
134. What 134 does, it's, the counties and the municipalities don't get anything on these revenues on this on this bill, and this bill is there's two parts on this. This bill was motivated by a man that comes out and plays at the band at Sweet Creek, but he is handicapped. He used to be appointed by Sigelman on a Veterans Affairs. Mays Marshall, I think is his name. I don't know if y'all know him, but every time you saw Sigelman going to trial, you would see Mays would always be with him. But he fell out of a helicopter many years ago in the Marines and broke his neck. He's paralyzed from the neck down, or actually from the waist down. But he still goes. He comes to Sweet Creek every Saturday, plays in a band, and he goes, does his own shopping. He won't let anybody help him. He comes in the restaurant, gets his own stuff, and he gets mad if you do try to help him, but he can't get a parking place because he's in a handicap van. He goes to Walmart or go to Sam's or Costco. He'll park in the handicap, and there'll be somebody pulled up right beside him in the blue lines there. And so going back and talking to my sheriff, Cunningham, there hadn't been any violations written for handicap in 7 years. He went back 7 years to check in Montgomery County. And then had somebody check for 7 years in the city, and they couldn't find any violations written. So I go back and ask Cunningham, I said, why haven't y'all written any? And he says, well, we don't get any money off of it. If we write and we have to send a deputy to court, then we're having to pay him overtime to take him off the street. So this bill would take it, since the state and all the other departments that share a little bit of that revenue, they don't get anything anyway. We're going to give every bit of that revenue to the counties and to the city. Now, if a state trooper writes a ticket, it'll still go split up the way it is. But hadn't found anybody that opposes this component of that bill. And, so that's one part of it. And the other part of it is on a tag, the sheriff has been wanting to get more money for maybe raise the prices of a tag and put a tag fee on in Montgomery County. And we see that a lot throughout the counties. And I told the sheriff, I said, you know, with everybody raising ad valorem tax, you know, your tag goes up anyway, so it's kind of hard to beat up on everybody. Why don't we look at something a little more creative? And on the tag, when you write a ticket, the locals don't get any dollars off of that. None, zero. So there again, we're back in court opposing the bill, and you're having to pay overtime and take that deputy off the street, and you don't get anything off of it. So this would give them half of a tag fee, and I'd rather done that than to do them when I think they get $8, is that right, on a speeding ticket? And to where we're creating speed traps, I don't want that. But this right here, tag, it's been dribbling down since COVID. People aren't getting their tag renewed. You see if you're at a red light or riding down the road, you'll see people with drive out tags. Matter of fact, the other day when I was walking to my truck, I realized my tag was expired. And so, yeah. But anyway, I recently fixed that. But anyway.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Yeah. But, you know, we're getting grants for cameras in the rural part in some of these counties, and they're not any good if we don't have a good tag. And so this is going to motivate people to get their tag and be able to help finding people that cars were stolen or whatever. If you get pulled over, if you don't have a tag, more likely, you know, they'll be more proactive. So they get half of the fee now, and some of that goes to the general fund. It is a little bit off the general fund, but we think since more tickets are written, you'll have more volume, they'll get more money. So I don't seem to think, and some of the experts out there don't seem to think it's going to hurt, maybe only help. So that's what this bill does, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Anyone have any questions for the chairman?
I do. So it's not raising any fees, it's just redistributing the amount that they get off of it.
That's right. No fees have changed whatsoever. Instead of getting zero on the handicap and no motivation to write a ticket, they'll keep all that local money to them, and it goes back to the counties or the municipalities, and then on the tag is half the fee. It's $125, so it's get half.
Yes.
Thanks, Chairman, for this. I do support it. I do think that we should, you know, in Birmingham, we are employing cameras with license plate readers, and we've been trying to find a way to get folks, because folks have, you know, whatever car dealership tag on their car for months and years now, so we're not able to, you know, accurately tag those cars. So we appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And looking at the fiscal note here, so at the moment, we're not really talking about a whole lot of money, but
Yes.
we expect that to increase now
That's
that.
right.
Someone like to offer a motion?
I'd offer a motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear from HB 14.
All right, HB 14 is a bill that we discussed last week, and we carried it over just because we had I like to vet them and talk about what we can do, and we had a public hearing, and some good things came out of that. There were some questions about how long is it gonna be to exit, and some other discussion, and so after thinking about it and taking all the comments, I think that instead of the AG or the governor doing it, I think it was a fair, valid question about why don't we just do both, you know, to give it a little more meat and to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And so I made that as an amendment, part of this amendment. And so they both have to be on the same page before they go in. I appreciate that. Hold on one second. I got one more. I think I got one more part of this amendment. The other part is they have to exit in 6 months. So they go in and help this municipality. 6 months, they're out. They can't come back in for another 6 months, and in the same process repeats if there's still a problem. Now, if it's a volunteer basis, you know, they still have to exit 6 months and let them see if they can fly on their own. But it's 6 months on both, volunteer or mandatory.
Yes, sir.
So the Attorney General and the Governor both have to agree that this is needed, not just one?
That's right, that's right. And the way it is in the original bill, it's just one. And the AG wrote this, the governor had some input, governor's team had some input. Most of this came out of the AG. It was my concept of how we could, you know, we needed to hold these cities accountable. But as far as I know, everybody's fine with both. We don't know who the next governor is gonna be. We don't know who the next AG is gonna be. So we don't know, but we wanna make sure that they're not politically driven and to do it or not to do it. So it's both now.
Yes, Representative.
If the city requests you stay, you cannot. You have to leave for 6 months.
The way the amendment is, you'll have to leave in 6 months. And I'm sure there will be some input that they could give them, but they just have to take that cop back out.
Need a motion to accept the amendment.
I'll move. Accept the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I need a motion on the bill as amended. All in favor? Aye. All right.
For the record, I'm a no. I got people watching me to go back and tell my mayor.
As I-
No.
On the
Okay,
final
two.
bill or on the amendment? On the final
On the
bill?
final bill.
Okay,
On the final
thank
bill
you.
also?
Thank you, Representative.
Can I say why or no?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's absolutely.
Yeah, I just still have concerns if there's no criteria and it could be an arbitrary use of power at the executive level here. That is my great concern. I mean, we've all heard the cities that have been called out, Birmingham, Bessemer, like we've all heard those over and over again. But, you know, the county right adjacent to my home county, Jefferson County, that county in 2010 was the epicenter of the methamphetamine crisis. Then 12 years later, they're the epicenter of ground zero for the opioid crisis. And no one's talked about them, and hundreds of folks in that small community have died during those two epidemics. And we haven't talked about those. So I just feel like, you know, without criteria, that it can absolutely be political and arbitrary in the deployment of this power, and so I said opposed.
And we need to have that discussion.
And thank you for your comments,
Yes.
Representative.
Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
May I just say after the fact, and I probably should have brought this up before, I found a couple of headlines that I found very interesting. One says Montgomery Area Crime Task Force seizes 137 guns, including 20 with switches, and this story says that there's a task force already in place that is confronting and reducing violent crime in the Montgomery area. And then I see a headline that says, Ivy wants Birmingham to replicate Montgomery's crime-fighting task force. Will it happen? Question mark.
And
Sounds like something's working here.
Yeah, so there is a bill, as you know well know, in the governor's package, there is a task force bill. And, you know, either this bill that we just passed or either that bill or both need to happen. And, you know, Aaliyah can't continue to go to every county or every city that's having a problem and have that task force with the manpower they've got. And so this other bill that the governor's got, is gonna have, there'll be more money, I'm sure, that the general fund will give them, but there'll also be a task force permanently put in place for that. And this was just a temporary fix since we had so much problems here, along with the city, the county, and the state that worked on that.
60 days is temporary.
I know. But anyway, all right.
I'm gonna turn this meeting back over to
All right.
you, Chairman.
Thank you, Representative Wood. I appreciate it. And I appreciate everybody on the committee. We've got some good work to do, and we've done a lot today. I appreciate everybody that came to the meeting. Do I hear a motion? We're adjourned.